Welcome to the Podcast Growth Show. Next level thinking on how to increase your podcast subscriber base. Podcast directories aren't enough for podcast distribution. In this episode, we'll learn why, and also how to automatically and widely syndicate your episode show notes content for quick traffic and SEO rank wins. This is the primary marketing approach that we are taking for our own podcast. So first of all, an episode overview. We'll talk about what is content syndication, definition of it. What are the benefits for podcasters and really also for bloggers? How does this work? How do you actually do it? And how can you automate it? A closer look at the platform that we use and love for doing this. Our own process for podcast syndication and distribution of content, and then some of the results that we've seen from it. So first of all, what is content syndication? So here's a definition from Search Engine Watch. They define it as follows. Content syndication is the process of pushing your blog post, article, video, or any other piece of web-based content out to other third parties who will then republish it on their own sites. So that applies to podcasts as well. We want to create brand awareness for our podcast by publishing our show notes stories on multiple websites, communities, social media places, and through email channels. So you might ask why. What are the benefits of doing that? Why should podcasters care about content syndication? And aren't we already doing that by distributing our episodes on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Play? Well, yes, we are, but only for the audio content, or mostly for the audio content. We ought to do the same thing for our episode show notes and create, in fact, a multi-channel web presence. So content syndication is to our show notes what podcast directories might be to our audio files, a way to distribute our content more widely, and a way to establish presence on multiple content and social media platforms. So the wins are traffic and discoverability. This results in greater traffic. When you are going live with your episodes, you probably already share them on your Facebook page or on your Facebook profile, maybe on Twitter. But have you thought about publishing your episode show notes as articles on Medium? I get a lot of traffic from that. Or on Blogger, owned by Google, gives you a little bit of a rank boost. So the idea that we're about to explore here involves the wider distribution of your show notes to as many platforms as possible. And the benefits of that extend far beyond just getting a little bit of traffic alone. What you earn through that are some SEO backlinks. Take a look at the graph I included in the show notes, podcastgrowthshow.com/E8. You can see all the graphics and the videos and the demo that we're going to do here. So I'd encourage you to check that out. But my own backlinks to my site, from high domain authority sites have increased by 231% in the last 2 months of launching my podcast. And that's largely resulting from the podcast distribution and syndication method. I didn't do an outreach campaign. I didn't ask anybody for links. It's just part of this process that, gives you a bit of a rank boost. And for those unfamiliar with you, increasing your backlinks means that you're getting more sites to link to you, and that gets Google to rank your site better in the search engine placement and in the search results. So I've got some concrete examples of this later in this post and in the show notes. But on my own podcast, and some episodes that I've had, they rank on page 2. I have one that's on page 1, and I've published them 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. And they are consistently there. It's not like it's just a spike and then they disappear again. So the other thing is that my site doesn't particularly have a super high domain authority. It's decent, but so I just have kind of an average site that's been around for, maybe 10 years or so, and I can get my episodes to rank using this process. So, okay, so how does this work, and how can I automate it? You could, of course, distribute your show notes to a bunch of different platforms manually, and generally that's what most of us do, and it would involve reposting your article via copy paste, for example, in Medium. That's the wrong way to do it, by the way. Or to share your own episode show notes URL on social media. We all kind of all do that. And that's perfectly fine, but there's a lot of pitfalls and it's a lot of work. So first of all, the manual approach is just hugely time consuming. Each platform has slightly different rules. They vary a bit in layouts and features. And the more platforms that you want to distribute your content to, the more a manual process creates a tremendous amount of work. Then, if you're not careful or SEO savvy, your podcast episodes might rank on third-party sites than your own. So if you type something into Google for your desired keyword, what do you want to appear there? Well, your site, right? Not Medium, not a blog or article, or something on Facebook or YouTube. So I've written extensively about how to prevent that and how to do it properly. Especially in episode 7, we go into a little bit of the approach. Episode 7 was 5 reasons not to promote a podcast on Facebook. And you can find that at podcastgrowthshow.com, of course. But my point overall is that doing this manually, it's kind of a fool's errand. And there are some great content syndication platforms out there that will help us do this much more easily. And they address these concerns. And there's one particular one that we use that I love for doing this. It's a Belgian platform called StoryChief. And I'd love to tell you about how we're using it and how it's totally revolutionized our podcast show notes content syndication process. Remember, we do this for clients too. So I'm not just doing this for one show. We're doing this for multiple shows. So what's so special about StoryChief? Well, it's podcast ready. It's optimized for blogging as well as podcasting. It's got a built-in content calendar. It's SEO ready. In other words, it does this canonical tag thing. I'll go into that a little bit detail later. It does lead capture on your show notes pages, and it's dead easy to use for beginners, but also has some pretty advanced features for more advanced and older marketers like myself. So it also, I love the fact that it coaches you through SEO. I mean, it's not super detailed coaching, but it gets the job done. And it coaches you how to make your show notes more readable. So it keeps a readability score as well. And so overall, if you follow the recommendations that it gives you, you wind up with some pretty awesome show notes if you're producing them yourself. And then it's a collaboration platform too. So you can assign writers or team members or staff members or outsource your podcast show notes production. So that's pretty awesome. So the options of that platform, let me just talk a little bit in summary about what it does. So first of all, you can publish to multiple websites that you yourself own. And you can think of it as sort of having a central place where you enter your show notes, and then it goes out to all these other places. And with StoryChief, you create a layer above all those other websites, and it really just simplifies the production process because you've got that one central place and it flows outward from there. So you just, with a single click, once your show notes are finished, you click a button and it goes out to all these other places. And the layout of the show notes that appear in these other places will automatically be adjusted to adopt the branding of your site, for example. And on WordPress, I particularly, and it works for WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, a number of other platforms that you might be blogging on. So, and especially in WordPress, I like the fact that when you're using images in your show notes on StoryChief, they actually wind up being uploaded to your media library as part of the automated publishing process. So I like that a lot, is that, if you ever discontinue with StoryChief, you still have all the assets and all your content on your WordPress site. And it works with your SEO settings and keywords and meta descriptions. If you use the Yoast SEO plugin, like most of us do, it transfers all the settings that you might already set up in StoryChief. And so your blog posts, if you SEO optimize them in StoryChief, they're going to be SEO optimized in Yoast. So it's a powerful platform, and yet it's so simple to use. So you can also publish it to a blog that you get as part of signing up for StoryChief. So if you don't have a site or a blog yet, you get a free one with StoryChief. So it's automatically generated when you set up an account. Now, personally, I don't use that. I don't drive traffic to it, but I still publish each show note article there because I get a backlink from it. So It also handles the social media distribution. So from creating Facebook pages, groups, Twitter, LinkedIn posts, LinkedIn pages, it publishes there, and the links will go to your website where you tell it that the primary source of your show notes should live. And that's really important to me. Is like I like knowing that whatever content is being shared out there, it's going to link to my site. It's going to increase my traffic. It's going to result in a rank boost for my own site. It's also very mobile savvy. It publishes to Google's AMP, Facebook Stories. So all of the mobile platforms that are springing up, it has the ability to publish to that as well. So. Then one other component that I like about the concept here is that you have an ambassador or influencer network that you can build. So this is the idea of basically that you partner with some people that agree to help share your content out there, and you agree to help share theirs. And by the way, I'd love to invite you to do that for my side. If you're in a similar niche, if you're talking about marketing, inbound, SEO, or podcasting for that matter, I'd love to connect with you and see whether we can support each other in promoting each other's content, because our reach basically gets far wider. And the way it does that is automatically when you publish a post, it sends a reminder out to your ambassador network to share the content. What's cool about this is you can set up several networks. So if I write about SEO, I might share it with an SEO influencer network. If I write about podcasting, I'll share it with my podcasting network. Anyway, so it's sort of like the baked-in email notification features that the platform has, but what's powerful about it is that you can basically create different groups and kind of automate that process. So finally, you can publish to communities that already have some traffic on them, like Medium or Blogger. I was talking about that a little bit earlier, and also in some other articles about how to do that correctly and how to make sure that Medium isn't where your post will rank or show up. But Medium is read by a lot of smart people. It's got a huge audience, and with a good enough article and long form show notes as they typically are, Medium might pick you up and distribute you. I get lots of traffic from Medium. So good. Well, let's have a closer look. We'll do a little demo if you don't mind. I know that for those of you listening via audio, this is both an audio and a video podcast. So I'll try my best to describe what's going on in the demo portion that's coming up now. All right. So here we are on the StoryChief website, and we talked a little bit about the features, but let's take a look at the integration that are possible when using StoryChief. So. Well, let's go and start with the available channels that are possible to be configured. As I mentioned, StoryChief comes with its built-in blog, and we can have a quick look at that so that you can see what that looks like. Here is my Polymash podcast growth system blog that I've set up as part of the StoryChief. As I said, I don't really use it, but I do get backlinks from it, and so that's useful. My primary place where I publish is WordPress. Now, I don't happen to have Drupal, but you can also hook up an API to basically publish to almost any website out there. Some of my marketing buddies out there will be using HubSpot or Magento. That's another famous CMS that's out there. So you can see there are a whole range of choices. Another good one that's maybe worth pointing out is Shopify. I'm not sure whether that applies to you as a podcaster, but it could. Content hubs are next. This is where you would configure Medium. Most of the time you have a personal account on Medium, but I also run a publication called Podcasting Strategy, Launch and Marketing on Medium. So those are two different places that I typically syndicate this content. Let's go back to Content Hubs. Blogger, I've also set that up. As I mentioned, it's owned by Google. And finally, I create an RSS feed. There are many purposes for that I won't go into in details. On Facebook, both Facebook pages as well as Facebook groups are promoted, Twitter and LinkedIn. And then here are the referral or the ambassador networks that we talked about a little bit earlier. I have two of them configured at the moment, one for podcasting and one for just general digital strategy. But you can easily see how if your podcast is about multiple topics, you could easily use it for that. If you have multiple seasons, you could possibly set it up to where your podcast season 1 has an ambassador list that's different from season 2. So this is kind of up to you to decide. Press releases, if you are big enough to warrant occasional press releases and you have an episode on which you're talking about an event or something other really noteworthy that would lend itself to a press release, that's a great option to have. Email marketing, it comes built in with MailChimp, it comes built in with Campaign Monitor, but we'll go in a minute, we will look at what the integration strategy is. And because you can hook it up to Zapier quite easily, it basically you gain access to almost any marketing automation platform that's out there for capturing leads. So email marketing with MailChimp, Campaign Manager, and ActiveCampaign. I know they're adding additional platforms even as we speak. And we mentioned a bit the mobile platforms as well. Google AMP and Facebook Instant Articles is what's available right now, and that can be quite helpful. All right, so here we are in the integration screen where you set up. And by the way, this stuff, don't let it overwhelm you. These are one-time setup activities. I'm just trying to point out the rich distribution potential that you get on this platform. And most of it is a matter of a one-time effort, and then it is as simple as actually just clicking to publish at the end of this. So here we can see that on the lead capture side, there are many ways in which you can capture a lead inside your story. So if you're mentioning something in a podcast that's a worthy add-on, or you're asking people to sign up for something, or even if you don't have this built into your website, I mean, we use Thrive marketing automation tools to help with this, but even if you don't have anything like that, it helps you by providing it. The webhook is the way that you connect to Zapier, and as I mentioned, that just opens up a whole world of other integration platforms. Content calendars are another interesting integration. So you can have everything that's going to go live, including on social media, you can integrate that into your Google Calendar or into your Apple Calendar or into your Outlook Calendar. So I love that part. Editor embeds is where it gets interesting, especially for podcasters, because what I want to highlight there is that it supports Anchor, Pippa, SoundCloud, and Libsyn and Radio Public right now, Mixcloud as well. They're working aggressively on adding other audio platforms to be directly supported. I'm sure Blueberry isn't far away. Right now, there isn't a native integration with Blueberry at the moment, but I think that if that's something that you need, I reached out to them. I was the one who got Libsyn on board. I was the first person to suggest that on their roadmap, and they've been very responsive in implementing some of the features that we as podcasters were pitching to them. So, that's the good thing with it being somewhat of a startup platform. However, they've grown very fast and they're pretty secure. They're going to be around. I thought we'd have a quick look at the actual editor itself. It's broken down into sort of a number of interesting components. Those of you who've ever written on Medium, the editor works very much like that. You just basically get a screen and it's as easy as pie to start typing something in. And as you're typing it, you can make it and turn it into headings, into quotes. You can add links. You can even comment back and forth. And this ability to comment is a wonderful collaboration strategy where you can have multiple writers, or you can outsource your show notes production and comment back and forth about something that you like that the writer did. Or if you're doing this as a service for third parties, you can communicate this way. So, I love the ability to comment. But the editor itself is very straightforward. You see that the interface is organized. If I look at up here, I mentioned the SEO coaching components here. You can see that this is, these are the show notes that I'm actually preparing for this very episode that you're listening to right now. It's in an earlier stage than what you would see on my site, but I thought I'd share with you what this looks like. And you can see that on the SEO widget that's here on the side, it actually tells you what to do and walks you through a number of steps to optimize your post, your show notes for SEO. And it also has a area here where you can read, where you can get a score on the readability of your post. So keeping it simple, adding headings, breaking it up, not having too many long sentences, and a flash reading score, which is sort of like how complex is the grammar that you're using. And, getting a good score of that is a factor that SEO is an SEO factor now. Google actually uses this as a rank indication signal. I don't know how much weight it carries, but it carries some. And, besides, it just makes for a better reading experience to have your show notes be very easy and scannable. The approach that we take is that our headings by themselves allow you to scan through an episode and very quickly see what's going on. People do kind of scan a lot these days. But so that's how it's organized. And after you write, you basically go to another area of it where the summary is. And this is sort of the metadata where you put a cover image, where you add an excerpt for your WordPress blog, where you determine the author and the categories, that this is going to be a podcast. So you basically manage that. You can add tags here, and you can add deadlines, and you can manage the SEO, both from a title, the URL, the show notes meta description. So this is all baked into StoryChief, and it all translates over to any other platform that you publish to. So these settings are going to trickle down into WordPress. They're going to trickle down into Drupal or Joomla, and they will be honored on as many platforms as they can be honored in. The last part of the publishing process is that you select your audience. And this is where you can both schedule, this has to do with the content calendar. So if I want to publish this next Tuesday, I can do so. I can go in here and basically tell it and choose a calendar time. And then I will tell it all of the destinations that, this episode is supposed to get published on. And the best part of that is, at the end of the day, when you click that publish button and you see it going live, as you can see here, I'm publishing currently to 16 destinations. At the moment, Facebook pages, Facebook channels, my Medium, my WordPress blogs, my LinkedIn profiles, and so forth. Some people that I've seen have up to 20 or 30 channels that they've configured, and I think it's a great feeling when you then actually click the publish button and you see it go live everywhere. So when I first saw this, I thought it was super exciting because it just saves us so much time, and it was a no-brainer for me to try to integrate this into our workflow, which will be the topic of an upcoming episode. I want to talk a little bit about exactly the process that we go through to prepare content, for publication here. But if you thought this was useful and you would like to give it a try, the good news is that there's a free sign up. So please visit podcastgrowthshow.com/E8 for a link. This is an affiliate link, so if you do ever upgrade, I'll earn a small commission at no extra cost to you, just to be clear and disclaim that up front. But it's affordable because the baseline version of it, beyond the free version, I think the free version gives you 5 articles to play with. The paid version, the entry level is only $10 per month, which I think is extremely reasonable for what it does. And then some of the more sophisticated integrations, that we've talked about, are available in the Pro plan. But I think that, you will get a lot of use and time savings even out of the basic version, and I think it's totally affordable to do it. So again, podcastgrowthshow.com/E8. I'm hoping that you found this useful. I'm going to go through and just, through the features and how they basically split up. As I mentioned, there is a free version that you can get. And then there's a basic pro and enterprise versions. I'll skip the enterprise one, but here's a feature comparison. So you can see that what you're getting with the free version, is quite a lot. You get 5 stories a month. You could really get a feel for the platform and start utilizing it, even with the free version. With the basic version, you actually get that ambassador network and some of the more, from my perspective, useful features that we've talked a little bit about. So the basic version is actually quite feature rich. You do get the content calendar, version history. You get a content approval and rejection, which are the collaboration features, to where you can assign show notes to someone and communicate back with them. You get that integration into email letters, the lead generation forms. You get that custom domain and editorial briefs, and a number of other benefits. The Zapier integration, all of that is included in the baseline version for only $10. So I just think this is a smashingly good deal. And even though we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what you can do with this tool, I hope you do see the value of distributing your show notes as widely and to as many different networks as you can, just like you're doing with your podcast audio. We've certainly had amazing results out of it. In the show notes, I've got some graphics and some screenshots from the results that we're getting, which for me, and our website has been that several of the posts and several of my episodes are actually resulting in a great amount of traffic, or a good amount of traffic. I mean, I'm ranking for keywords that have sort of like 500 visits a month. But if I can be on page 1 for that, I'm happy. I don't need to rank, or I don't expect to be ranking for something that has, 25,000 searches a month. That's a bit too competitive for me. I talked about that a lot in our SEO courses, how to basically match your podcast's website with the kind of keywords that you can actually rank for, something that's commensurate with your site. As I mentioned, we'll be going into that in a future episode. But I hope that you found this inspiring. Please visit podcastgrowshow.com, get your free sign-up link for Story Chief. Try this out yourself and see what you think. And let me know in the comments, how, what you're thinking and what your process is, and, and how you could integrate that. I'm hoping that you could see yourself doing this. One last thing I almost forgot is the Ambassador Network. If you'd like to join my Ambassador Network, I would hugely appreciate it. And, maybe we can, if we're in sync, if our content is in sync from an SEO or inbound marketing or podcasting perspective, maybe there's a way that we could work together and support each other. So there is a sign-up link on the show notes where you could join my Ambassador Networks. I would love to have you be part of that, and I would love to be able to support you in any way that I can. So feel free to reach out questions. Let me know in the comments what's going on for you, and we'll see you next time and on the other side. Thank you for listening to the Podcast Growth Show. Visit us at podcastgrowthshow.com and download your podcasting resources guide.